Hey everyone, today we're doing our only episode on Grand Seiko. So we're going to talk about only collecting from this one brand. If you could pick 3 watches to comprise your daily rotation, what 3 would you choose from only this one brand? I'm going to share with you guys my picks. I'd love to hear your picks in the comment section. But before we get to the picks, I want to talk just a little bit about this brand, my experience, my feelings about them. And I know some of you will relate to me and some of you will think I'm harshing on Grand Seiko unnecessarily to try to be woke or something, for YouTube's sake, but I'm really not. So let's talk about Grand Seiko. They've been creating watches for the past 60 years, since 1960. Their philosophy or their slogan is the pure essentials of watchmaking elevated to an art form. And I think they do a fantastic job in living that mantra and creating products that are exciting, they're durable, they're absolutely beautiful, and they're very accurate. So Grand Seiko, they're most well known for doing spring drive movements, at least modern spring drive, but they didn't start off that way. They started off with traditional mechanical movements, which they still do. And then in the late 1980s, they brought the high accuracy quartz to their lineup, and they've been producing high accuracy quartz movements ever since. And that's the way you can kind of get into Grand Seiko, spending the least amount of money. But the nice thing is they're still hand finished, just like the more expensive mechanicals and spring drive movements are. Those models, they're all done by hand, finished by hand, Suratsu polishing in the Shinsu watch studio in Japan. And I think that's pretty impressive. So I love the dial work. I think that they display a lot of talent and prowess in the colors, the textures that they use, the faceted applied markers, the Dauphine handsets. I think they do a great job with the detail work, the finishing, the feel, the color, the pop. But I think they lack in a few areas. So don't harsh on me too much because I come at this from a fan perspective. I want Grand Seiko to do better. And so that's why I'm shedding some light on some negative elements. But sometimes they're just too dang tall. When you have something so beautiful, and so elegant, it's just so disappointing. When a dress watch is approaching 13 millimeters in overall height. So hopefully in future years, they kind of trim that down. And I do see some promising steps from Grand Seiko's part to do that. And then they do 2 things that bother me personally. And you guys let me know in the comments if you agree with me or if I'm just being unrealistic and maybe a Swiss snob here. But sometimes Grand Seiko puts an ugly screening on the sapphire crystal on the back of their watches. So you can't really see the movement. You see this, reflective gold lion emblem, their logo. That drives me nuts. It's something that they always put on the case backs of their watches, and I can't fault them for that. But most of the time, or at least in years past, they've just done such a light etching or screening on the underside of the crystal. So you only pick up on it if you know what to look for, if you're looking for it. So I wish they would do that all the time on their exhibition crystal case backs. It's just a personal preference. And then the last thing is the bracelets. Maybe I'm a snob here. I'm wearing a Rolex bracelet on my Hulk today. And I love how rigid these are, how solid they are, hefty, how satisfying the clasps are to operate, how I can adjust this on the fly, get the exact amount of travel that I'm looking for a perfect fit. And I compare it to Grand Seiko bracelets. And you know what? It's just a philosophy difference. They want to go with comfort. So they're going to be naturally a little bit more, have a little bit more flex and give to them. They just won't feel as solid. And when you're spending $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 on a luxury product, you don't want to have anything that feels like a letdown, right? And at least to me, the bracelets, the clasps, the amount of adjustability, and even to a degree, the finishing where the links kind of terminate and meet each other, just not quite there. Similar to how most Seiko bracelets are a little bit lacking, even though they're perfectly comfortable and functional. They're just not supremely satisfying. So again, I don't want to turn this into a bash Grand Seiko session by any means, because I really enjoy Grand Seiko. And again, I say this out of love. So hopefully Grand Seiko, Hopefully they address some of these things in future years. So let's get to the picks. My first pick, this is my practical pick. This is the watch that's most affordable that I would wear on most days. This would be my daily driver, my pick. This is the SBGN 011. I love this champagne ivory dial. I think it's my favorite of the dials that they offer. And I believe if I remember right, Tim Mosso has said in multiple videos that it is their most involved dial to produce when it comes to the level of steps and everything. So it's sophisticated, it's gorgeous, it's warm, it's inviting, it's got great color play, great graining. And I think it contrasts really nicely with the pop of blue on the GMT hand, on the indexing. And this is also my favorite complication, a true GMT movement where the hour hand or the local hand can be bumped forward or backward independent of hacking the movement. So I love it. It's a great size, 40 millimeters. It's 12.2 in overall height, so it doesn't suffer from being too tall like I believe some Grand Seikos do. And this carries the 9F86 caliper, accurate to a window of plus or minus 10 seconds per year. So I can use this watch to set the time on the spring drive pick and the mechanical pick that I'll be making, because if I'm only collecting from Grand Seiko, I want the 3 different movements that they produce. I want to sample it all. I want to have some variety in the different types of movements. So this is my high accuracy quartz pick. Again, retail price $3,000, and you can find nice discounts on this exact model. So let's go to the next pick. This is my power pick. This is a watch that I wouldn't wear every day, but when I want to make a statement, when I want to grab a little bit of attention and wear something a little bit more powerful and fun and eye-catching and exciting, this is what I would choose. This is the SBGA 407, retail price $5,800. And as you guys can see, this carries the snowflake texture on the dial, but it's not white like the classic snowflake. This is a light blue. And you know what? I think this looks so good. Bruce, why don't you just pick the snowflake? I've reviewed the snowflake. I'm impressed by the snowflake, but personally, I think it's just a touch too tall, and I'm not the biggest fan of titanium myself. So this one I think is ideal. It's still borderline too tall, in my opinion, at 12.8 millimeters in height. But I like this case shape a little bit better than the more naturally curvy shape of the snowflake case. And I love the blue. I think that contrasts really nicely with that ivory champagne dial of my my practical pick. So this carries a spring drive movement, the 9R65, 3 days of power reserve, and accurate to a window of plus or minus 15 seconds per month. So really good accuracy, really beautiful, smooth sweep. I think this one would be a really exciting pick. Now, you guys might not like this last pick because I struggled with it. I will do some honorable mentions at the end of the video, but this is my pipe dream pick. It's the pick that's really out there, where if the stars aligned, I would pull the trigger, I would make the purchase, and I would enjoy a heck of a watch. This is the SLGH 002. Retail price is $43,000. $43,000 for a Grand Seiko. It's not even a Creedor. Bruce, what's the matter with you? Well, let me tell you my draw to this watch. First off, it's full precious metal, and I will cede the fact that it's not a value pick. You know, some brands like Carl Buchera, you can get a good amount of gold for the amount that you spend. Not with this. You know, you can buy a Rolex Day-Date with a full bracelet for about $35,000 from Rolex. And you know what? I compare that to this, which is a 40 millimeter watch, 11.7 in overall height. It is precious metal. It is yellow gold, but you know what? It's far more expensive. This is a limited edition to 100 units and carries a new mechanical caliber. This is the 9SA5, 80 hours of power reserve, and it's a high beat. Very sophisticated, classically beautiful, right? We have a full free sprung balance with a skeletonized rotor. We have blued screws. I think this is just stunning. So stunning. And I hope it's the future of mechanical watches from Grand Seiko because it's thinner. And so Grand Seiko can get the overall height thinner. And if they can produce a stainless steel variation, of one of their beautiful designs with great dial work that carries this caliber, I think that's a huge win. And I would be very interested in that. So I like this. Hopefully, again, it's the future of their mechanical line. I don't know that. But I think it's a gorgeous piece. I think it's classically beautiful. I like the fact that it's precious metal, but I recognize it's kind of a pipe dream. It's not a value pick, and I likely will not be spending $43,000 for a 100 unit limited edition Grand Seiko. But you know what? These are my picks. I think this would make a fun variety, a fun rotation that I would enjoy wearing personally. Let's get to the honorable mentions. I struggled with not including this one. This is the SBGV 245. This is another entry level, kind of sporty, aggressive watch with the angular case, the 200 meters of water resistance, and the dominant brushed dial and bezel. Little bit of lume on the hands, on the markers. And I know I've got two friends of mine that both own this watch, and it's among their favorite watches. And they all have some really nice watches in their collections, respectively. So this one I think is really great. $3,000 is the full retail price. And the next honorable mention is another true GMT movement that I think just looks really, really great. This is the SBGJ 237. And I've reviewed a spring drive variation of this, but this one is a high beat. It's a gorgeous blue and white scheme with the sapphire bezel that's partially lumed. And I just think it's a really interesting design. It's a little bit tall, 14.4 in overall height. So again, that's kind of going back to the fact that some of their watches they're tall. This one I think is forgivable because it's a sport watch, but I think it looks very beautiful. Full retail price on this is $6,800. Let me wrap up with just one question you might be asking. A lot of you guys know I love divers. It's my favorite style. Bruce, why didn't you pick a diver from Grand Seiko? They make a few really good ones. Well, let me tell you guys, I've reviewed the Spring Drive diver, which I think currently is about their most popular diver design. And I wasn't necessarily impressed with that. I mean, obviously I was impressed on the whole, but the dial work felt a little flat. The printing on the markers was a little bit disappointing. And overall, I didn't enjoy it as much as I had expected to enjoy it. So maybe it was unrealistic expectations. But I think Grand Seiko excels with that lovely, simple, dressy design. I think they do that the best. And so if you look at my three picks, that's why you will see a lot of similarity there. But I did try to add some versatility in color, in complication, and with movement style. And I guess also material as well with the yellow gold. So guys, those are my picks. What would you choose if you were picking three watches from Grand Seiko? And what do you think of my analysis of this brand? Am I too harsh on them? Or do you kind of get where I'm coming from? I'd be interested to hear. Let me know if I'm off base. Thanks very much for watching today, guys. Hope you have a good one, and see you next time.